else but the truth. So help me God.
I swear that the truth that I repeat is the truth, is the whole truth, and nothing else but the truth. So help me God.
Honorable members of the Senate, members of the National Disability Board, and our colleagues from the press. The Thematic Committee on Human Rights wrote a letter inviting the National Disability Board to this meeting. The Committee on Human Rights is conducting an inquiry into the domestication of the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. In that regard, the letter read, the board is being invited to a meeting to be held on Monday, the 17th of June, 2019 at 1400 hours. And this is the meeting. The purpose of the meeting is for you members of the board to share with the committee your views on the domestication of the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. And now that we are all present, we will start the process of the board members giving evidence. Having completed all the other procedures and taken the oath of telling the truth and nothing but the truth, I should believe that everything that we are going to be discussing here is the truth which will promote the observance of the rights of people with disabilities. And feel free to give that evidence to this committee. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Chair and Honorable Senators here present. Allow me to kindly ask Mrs. Nishi to take us through on what we have done and what we intend to do and our challenges as well on the issue of the domestication of the UNCRPD. Maybe after the presentation, we can answer any questions from the committee, if it is okay with you.
Afternoon, Honorable Chair, once more. At this moment in time, I'll take you through on what has been done in terms of domesticating the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities as Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe, if we have heard, we became a state party to the United Nations Conventions on the Rights of Persons with Disability on the 23rd of September 2013. Since then, the process of domestication commenced with the review of the current legislation, which is the Constitution. We've got two sections in the Constitution, Section 83 and Section 22, which speak on the rights of persons with disabilities in Zimbabwe, which is also part of the domestication to say the convention was trying to say persons with disabilities have rights. And hence in Zimbabwe, the Constitution itself is also taking ML to incorporate the rights of persons with disabilities. And then from then, After that, it has been noted that there is need to amend the Act, the Disabled Persons Act, whereby at the moment the Attorney General's office has drafted a bill, and the draft bill was circulated with stakeholders so that at least they can have input towards the finalization of the bill so that it can be enacted into an act of parliament. And also at the moment, there's a draft disability policy where we are saying the UNCRPD and the constitution, they need documents which support them, which can domesticate and say, as Zimbabwe, this is what we want to do, and this is the way we are going to protect the rights of persons with disabilities in Zimbabwe. So at the moment, we've got two drafts, which are the draft disability bill and also the draft policy in place, where we are saying we at least need to finalize these two documents to say we have finalized the domestication process for the disability, for the United Nations Conventions on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities in Zimbabwe, because the documents have adopted the articles from the United Nations Conventions on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities to say this is what we want as Zimbabwe, adopting from an international perspective, from an African perspective, and also coming back home, coming closer to say we have persons with disabilities in their own uniqueness. What is it that we need to do for them? So hence the bill, which will be enacted into an act of parliament, and the policy will be talking to us to say this is what we want to do as a point of reference to link us to the international level of interacting with other persons with disabilities. So basically, this is what we have in place at the moment. And these are the stages that have been taken into account so far.
Thank you, Madam Mishi. So this is what we are doing as the National Disability Board in conjunction with the Department of Disabled Persons Affairs under the Ministry of Public Service, Labour and Social Welfare.
That's fine, thank you for the presentation. Any further comments? Are there any other submission from the members of the board?
Thank you very much. I don't have much to say, but what has been said by my boss, Ms. Maungani there, this is the position on the ground so far. Maybe I can highlight as a cause of concern to say what we are doing. We are only one concerned about the time frame of those two bills. We expect them to be out as soon as possible. We know it's not easy and it's not an overnight job, but we feel as a matter of urgency, something must be done. Like in Shona they say, ukabika sadza ukarisika ukakwatisisa, at the end of the day unopedzisira rava mbodza. Saka time frame, we are really much worried about it as a National Disability Board. Thank you very much.
You can be sure that the members of this committee are involved. And therefore, from our side, we will make sure that we present these recommendations to the relevant minister, make sure action is taken which is appropriate in our circumstances. And I am sure we will continue to be consulting each other so that where there may be delays, those delays are indicated and measures are taken to speed the processing. You can be rest assured about that.
Thank you.
Marty.
Chair, if I can get back to you indicated that you just said this is what we want and what we want to be done. Can you clarify what you want and what you want?
Thank you, Honorable Senator. Through you, Honorable Chair. What we want to be done is we need to ensure that everyone that has received the copy of the draft bill has managed to input their comments so that at least the Attorney General's office can be able to finalize the bill into an act of parliament, where it will go through the processes and procedures of being read in the cabinet and parliament, and so that at least it can be finalized. And we say we have amended the act. It is now speaking to us as Zimbabwe to say United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities has highlighted this, and as Zimbabwe we have managed to come up with an act which is aligned to the what? To the convention. And also we want to make sure that the policy, the draft policy that is in place is also finalized, which is also going to help in terms of coming up with an implementation matrix to say this is what we are going to do to ensure that the rights of persons with disabilities in Zimbabwe are protected and are also guaranteed. 100% they receive the services that they need. They also get the adequate services that they need, and also in terms of employment, they also get opportunities for employment that are fair. And also in terms of their education is also catered for. So with these documents, we are able to say that this is what we are going to do to make sure that persons with disabilities in Zimbabwe are also catered for in terms of their rights. And also, what we have done at the moment is to also come up with these draft documents which we say we want to finalize. So basically, as a committee, you can also assist us in terms of sensitizing other members of the parliament and also of the Senate to say when documents which are going to come before us, which are the disabled persons bill and also the national disability policy, can we also fast track the process to ensure that at least all these documents are finalized on time? Because at times it's beyond us as a ministry, it's beyond us as the board to say we have submitted a document in parliament or in cabinet or before the Senate, and then overnight it's already discussed and it has been passed. So at least as a committee, you can also assist in terms of coming up with sensitization methods to other members of the Senate and also cabinet and parliament.
Thank you very much. There is debate that is going on whether we should have an amendment to the act, or we must have a new act altogether. And this debate comes in view of, first, the need to align the domestic law to the convention, and then the constitution to the law. Now, what is your comment as the board regarding that issue? Should there be an amendment only, or there should be a complete overhaul of the main act?
Thank you very much. I should think as board there should be some amendments, not a complete overhaul. If we look into the old act, there are some gaps which we feel must be addressed. So there are certain areas which we feel must have some sort of amendments. So I don't think to have a totally new act is necessary.
Maybe Ms. Simon or Ms. Siniwa, if there's something to say on that issue of amendment or coming up with a new act, or do you have anything to add?
Okay, through you, Chair. I think I need to second the idea from Mr. Mudanga. I think in terms of the TPA, we need some section which are needed to be amended only. So in terms of to come up with a new draft, I think it would much unnecessary for now. I think maybe for the future generation. But at the same time, as we incorporate the CRPD, the Act and the police, I think there's much room to have those things to be amended for now. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. This amendment, we are talking about the amendment. Can they make it in writing? Because some of us we attack. Can they make it in writing? They can write. So that we debate and pass this bill.
As the chief is saying, Senator, put some of these ideas in writing, but we will also make a report about this meeting and what needs to be done. But putting your views in writing will facilitate the process.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Nandana.
Yes.
Indicated that there are gaps that have not been filled. Can you elaborate maybe or some of those gaps which you feel have not been taken care of in the drafts that we have?
Thank you very much. How to give you areas of housing. There should be a policy in the local authorities that in every development of project in terms of housing, there must be a certain percentage of allocation for people with disabilities. If we have such kind of a policy, it will help us in every city that our people or our constituents do benefit in terms of alleviating poverty in the areas of housing. You will find out most of our people in every city, they live in very poor conditions. In Makokova, in Mbare, all those old areas. So we feel there must be a policy which will bind the local authorities that our people get a certain percentage of houses in any development project.
My two questions. The first one, I'm making it cognizant of the access or lack of access by disabled persons to socio-economic rights, the right to education, the right to health, the right to affirmative action, I think. Now, how much input was made by disability organizations or people with disabilities themselves through their organizations or individually. A, how much input did they make? A, on the draft policy. B, on the amendment. How much input did they put, if any? Then the second one is regarding the powers of the board itself. And in particular, I'm just looking at one aspect, the aspect of adjustment orders, where my understanding is that you want to make a building, for example, accessible, and there must be adjustment orders, and these adjustment orders can only be made with the concurrence of the minister of that ministry. Now, I want your comment on that, on that limited power that the board has regarding adjustment orders. Then my first question related to the input that was made by the people really affected by this policy and bill.
Thank you so much, Honorable Senator. Let me try to answer your first question on the input of persons with disabilities on these two documents, the drafts, the draft of the act and the policy. Since we are housed under the Ministry of Public Service, Labour and Social Welfare, the Department of Disabled Persons Affairs have managed to circulate these two drafts to different or to all DPOs, that's Disabled People's Organizations, to come up with their input on these bills. And also we are planning to have consultations on these bills before the bills comes to the parliament. I think Ms. Mishi and Ms. Mangwende will testify on the outcome or on the contributions that have come from the different DPOs or different individuals with disabilities.
Okay, thank you very much. Maybe to add on to that, I think at average we have about 100 registered DPOs. So they were put into clusters in their respective provinces, and the consultations were held with technical support from our ministry and the other line government ministries like the Ministry of Justice, Ministry of Health, and primary and secondary education. So the consultations, the primary consultations were done within the respective provinces. And also we are working with the registered organization and their umbrella organizations for the input into the bill to identify gaps. I think so far that's on the current stage that we are.
Yes, the second one relates to the powers of the board regarding the one particular aspect, the issuance of adjustment orders. So that power seems to be in the hands of line ministers, if I'm correct in my interpretation. And I just wanted your comment on that, your attitude as a board to that.
Thank you very much. On the issue of adjustment orders, the board has been given the mandate to issue out adjustment orders, especially to public buildings. I would give you a very good example. We had the public bank, empowerment bank, which was opened it was in Bulawayo 2 months ago, and the entrance did not have a ramp for our constituency people on which he has to get in. So what I did as a board, I approached the management. I asked them to erect a ramp for the wheelchairs, and I gave them time frame. And when I revisited them, work is in progress as I speak right now. Because I actually said we have the powers to go to the court and be given the adjustment order from the High Court. Failure to comply, the property owner is entitled to a very heavy fine. But we cannot only issue adjustment orders to government buildings, like the parliament. We cannot do that. We are only restricted to government buildings. And the challenge we have as a board with the old buildings, we have got a challenge because there's a cost involvement in issuing out adjustment orders. But we've got the powers through our statutory instrument to the Civil Procedure Act. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. My question is, you seem to be saying that we are not well represented in Parliament, but taking into consideration that we already have some members who are within Parliament. What were you proposing? The number of MPs with a disability.
Thank you very much. Taking into account in our constituency, we, according to our statistics, we are plus or minus 3 million. So being represented by 2 senators, we feel is not really enough. And our population is actually growing on a daily basis. Children born with autism. So what we are actually asking for is that we should have representation in every province at provincial level. We should have a representative. We only have 10 provinces in our country. Why can't we have one disabled MP covering that province, being supplemented by our approval in the Senate, where we have our 2 senators?
Madam Chair, I think I want to add on in terms of the statistics. In today's news day, there are almost 1 million persons with mental impairment, or in other ways, those are the users of mental health in terms of the normal revisit the institution, particularly focusing on psychiatry. So I think for a more representative now, it will suit in other angle to have those with those experience, lived experience, to be part of the legislative members, 1. Then 2, if they've elected by disability electoral council. So these are the some of the balance and checks which needs to be taken into consideration. Thank you.